Alright, it's Friday night, December 10th, and I have all the rocker arms except for this last cylinder, which is the number 5 cylinder, on it and adjusted. And I guess I'll show a adjustment of some new hydraulic roller or rockers on these last ones here. It's pretty easy to pre-adjust hydraulic, whether it's roller or just flat tap it. Now this is the intake side, this one is the exhaust side, and a long time ago I read in a Lenati Cam's book that the best way to ensure you're on the bottom of your lobe when you want to adjust it, on the intake, when you adjust the intake, do it just as the exhaust is opening, and when you adjust the exhaust, do it just as the intake is closing. And this lifter is just starting to come up, so we should be on the bottom, the low side of the lobe. Let me grab a adjustment nut. And what you do is you just set them at 0 lash. Just kind of take that push rod, and you can see, as you can see, I can move that rocker up and down. And my threads are a little boogered up on my nut here, but I'm not. There we go. You can see I could feel a little bit of resistance here as I was spinning it. And I can feel hardly no play in there, and that's pretty much 0 lash. Now since these lifters aren't pumped up, see, as you can see, I can push the spring down inside the hydraulic lifter. But you just kind of want to get it at 0 lash. I can feel a little play there, right there. And this varies depending on who you ask and maybe the situation. But always, after I get to 0 lash, you want to give it about a half turn of preload. Some people go 3/4. I usually go about a half turn, and after I start it up, it's usually good enough to go. I never have had to readjust them. I see some people take the valve covers off and adjust them while they're running. I never thought that was necessary. Maybe in some cases it is, but I've never had to do that, and it gets really messy, and I don't like to do that. So now that we got our preload set, we want to tighten our, these are poly lock nuts as they call them. They're not poly lock. Poly lock nuts are, have got like a polyurethane in the threads that it's kind of like a lock nut. These are just regular lock nuts. And I want to hold my nut still because I've got it adjusted where I want to adjust it. I want to tighten that set screw up, and I can give it a little bit of a crank there just to make sure it's good and snug. Now we can roll the other one over to where the intake valve starts to open. I know that don't look like much left, but that's because the lifters aren't pumped up yet. They're hydraulic, not solid. Now the lifter. Now the intake is starting to close. Always remember, intake as the exhaust valve opens, exhaust close as the intake closes. So, got me another rocker on. Another adjustment nut. Go to 0 lash. Feel a little bit of resistance there. Just go half a turn. And lock it down. And that's usually good enough for me. That's what's always worked for me. So Opinions may vary on that. And there we are, we're locked down. And I guess the next thing for me to do, I think I'll put the intake on it next. And hopefully tomorrow morning I'll start taping it off. Alright, hopefully tomorrow morning I'll start taping it off. And yeah, we'll be able to get some paint on this thing tomorrow, and then I'm going to work out some other things. And the geometry is looking pretty good. I showed you how I did the geometry, whereas the location of the roller on the valve. But also another thing you want is like the alignment here. That one there is off a little bit and could stand to be moved that away. But I've seen a lot worse. But yeah, that's all looking good. And I've noticed that the rollers line up with the cam good. I have seen the lifters kind of on other engines be kind of sticking way off the edge there. At least not way off the edge, but kind of being off center. But this one looks like everything's lining up pretty good. So hopefully this is going to work out whenever we get around to putting it together. And I was hoping to stick an oil filter on it and fill it up with oil and prime the engine this weekend. This is going to be hard to believe. I stopped at 4 different places on the way home from work today and could not find. I like Motorcraft oil filters, and the oil filter for just about all older Fords is FL1A. 4 different places did not have them. I don't know what's going on with that. Well, we kind of know what's going on. The idiots in charge of their government are causing a supply chain problem, but I don't know if maybe it could be that, or it could be auto parts stores are not carrying parts for engines before a certain year. I don't know, but there's empty shelves for them. It's marked, but I couldn't believe it. It's the first time in my life I've ever walked in an auto parts store and not found an oil filter that I needed. That's pretty much a everyday item. So I'm going to get the intake on this, and we'll do some painting this weekend, I hope. Okay, it's the next day, Saturday, December 11th. And last night I cleaned off my intake with lacquer thinner and let it dry real good and sprayed it with some aluminum engine paint. Did not work out too good. It flaked, did not stick very well. I don't know if it's because of the paint, or maybe there was an oil substance in there, but I'm going to have to sandblast the whole intake. I was hoping to avoid that, but it'll look better if I sandblast it and clear coat it. The engine is taped up, ready to paint. I don't know how this is going to work out. I got the Trino cleaned up, or covered up. Kind of covered up. It was warm last night, but it was wet and humid. The floor was sweating. Now the temperature has dropped like 30 degrees, and the sweating might have been why that didn't stick, even though it looked dry. Hello, Crystal. So we'll see how that works out. We got strong wind blowing in here. I got the garage warmed up, but I don't know if the wind's going to blow the paint back in here or not. But we got the Trino covered, and it's just a spray can. I got several cans of old paint. All of those right there are Ford light blue. And I have 1 can of old Ford blue. At least that's what it says on the cap. And another can of light blue. Whichever one I like the best is going to be the color I used for the last coat. Let's see. We're just going to do a little tack coat. See which one I like the best. I think I already like that. That's the darker. Man, that can is almost full, so that's a good thing. Yeah, that looks nice and dark. Actually, that looks darker than the old Ford blue. I like that. I think that I'm going to use that for the last coat. All right. Put the camera on tripod and we'll spray this thing. And that dries quick, and it's already looking so much better, and we're not even done detailing. Get that intake on there, and these valve covers, I haven't decided how I'm going to go about cleaning them up yet, but we'll see. And there's another issue that I'm going to have to fix with these valve covers and the gaskets. Gaskets are no problem, but what I am experiencing here, see these right here, they are meant to overlap the head or maybe just the gasket. And these gaskets, these tabs that go in slots on the valve cover, they need to be trimmed down. And I'm also noticing this one, there is no gasket on it. Let's see if I can see. Yeah, see that gap right there, right in there. These kind of hitting the gasket. Maybe once I get the gasket up in there, that will lift it off high enough to where you can squeeze the gasket good enough to seal it. If not, I can double gasket. I think that'll take care of that. It's just that these, it looks like these ProComp heads, this thickness right here is thicker than the original ones. Pretty sure, maybe, yeah, I believe they are. Find my calipers, then we'll know for sure. Let's see. I'm getting 340 thousandths. Maybe they're not. Yes, they are quite a bit thicker. And those are 420, about 90 thousandths thicker. And I think that these valve covers are supposed to, I don't know if I can lay it on there like that with the head like that or not. Yeah, it's supposed to. As you can see, these tabs here go over the side of the head with plenty of room to play. So I'm hoping the gasket will be thick enough to take care of that. If not, I'll have to double gasket, and I think that'll do it. So the next thing for me to do tonight, I'm getting ready to go inside and eat. I'm going to get this intake sandblasted, and I think it'll look better sandblasted and clear coated anyway. So yeah, that's looking a lot better, and that's what we're going to be doing the rest of this weekend, just working out little stuff like this. And once you get the intake on it, get the intake sandblasted and painted, get it on there. I need to get my power steering alternator brackets and everything, make sure that I do have correct mounting hose in these heads. We'll have to work all that out. Just little detail stuff all weekend. So it looks like sandblasting is unavoidable. Watch this. Even though I cleaned that off with a good dry lacquer thinner, for some reason that paint did not stick. It could be the paint itself. Maybe it was just too moist. I don't know. It was really moist last night, but the intake was dry as far as I could see. But we're going to sandblast it and probably clear coat it. And whenever you sandblast, something with gasket surfaces, you always want to tape up your actual gasket surfaces. You don't really want to etch that. At least I don't. And I'm not worried about getting sand up inside of it, even though I will tape all the openings off. You just don't want to etch it. It could cause leaks. So you want a good smooth surface if possible. So let me tape this up, and I'll put it in my sandblaster, and we'll have it looking better in a little bit. Alright, for those of you who have watched my channel for a long time, you remember when I made the sandblaster. Did buy one addition for it, a Harbor Freight dust collector. It works pretty good. I just borrow my shop vac hose and hook it up to this right here. And it looks like Looks like it cleaned up pretty good. I believe I'm going to just put it on like it is. Of course, blow all the dirt out of it. Any dummy would know that, I guess, but I'm sure someone would feel they have to remind me of that. But I think once I get it bolted on, I'm just going to clear coat it, because they always look really nice if you just clear coat a sandblasted intake, and it kind of helps keep the gas stains off of a bare aluminum intake that is cast and porous like this one. So yeah, and I need to get me a new window for sure, and a different light. But other than that, this sandblaster that I built has really worked out well for me for a long time. Let's blow this thing off and we'll show you what it looks like in the light. Alright, we're ready to stick this intake on. Just wanted to bring up one thing before I do. Got my gaskets. I usually don't use any kind of Permatex or sealant around the intake ports. They usually seal pretty good. I do use it around the water jackets on both sides of the gasket. And right here, where is my box of stuff? Okay, on these end gaskets, I usually just do not use them. I have used them with decent luck. I also have had trouble with them squeezing out. I usually just put a big, thick bead of Permatex there, and I'm using RTV grade, which always works good for me, and that always works fine for me. I should have stuck some studs in here, but I didn't. So I need to eyeball these up carefully. And it looks like it's set down on it pretty good. I was going to make sure I did put enough Permatex on there to squeeze that out. And guess what? I got my bolts ready. Something you always want to be sure of before you Permatex everything up. Can't stress that enough. Alright, torque specs call for 25 to 30 foot-pounds. I'm set on 20 right now. Before I even get close to clicking it, I'm going to spread out. Tighten it a little over here and a little over there. Use your torque pattern. It's kind of hard to figure out the torque pattern on these 429s. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that go straight down on each side, and the rest of them go at an angle. So I usually do the ones that go straight down first. Then do the ones that go in at an angle. And some of them you can't even get a socket on. So you have to pretty much put a regular wrench on it and guess. Like this one, you can't get a socket on. This one you can. I think it's all of them but that one. This one you can. That one you cannot. It's those two. So it's kind of hard to do a really good torque pattern when you can't get a socket on 2 of them. So I just snug these down. Pretty much all you can do is guess. Put a swivel head on it. That's not going to be very accurate of a torque, so I think the ones you really got to pay attention to are the ones that go straight down. I'm going to go to, we're already at 20. $25. Let's go all the way to 30. And on aluminum heads, sometimes it feels like 30 is pushing it. The torque specs on my book are for cast iron heads. Just make, especially with aluminum heads, make sure you got long enough bolts with plenty of thread. Using all the thread you possibly can, but don't make them so long. You can bottom them out. Engine's starting to look pretty good. So I think I'm going to end this video for this weekend. Tomorrow, I guess I'll work out my water pump and stuff, and I'll get some of that on video, and that'll be for the week, for the next video after this one. I still need to put this on. I'll probably stick that on tonight. And I need to get me a new thermostat, clean up my thermostat housing, paint it. Got to work out my engine mounts. The ones I ordered, I could not find an exact replacement for the old ones I had, which I think were old LTD mounts. And I got to make the ones I got work, and I'm pretty sure that won't be that big of a deal. Maybe I'll film a little bit of that. And we got to make sure our headers match these exhaust ports, because if you look at the gaskets, it's different. We're going to have to come up with something on that. So, yeah, still got to work out our valve cover gaskets. I'll show you what I'm going to do on that next time in the next video. So, told you you'd have a painted engine in this next video, and that's what you got. We got an intake on it, got it cleaned up. That cleaning takes time. So, yeah, thanks for watching.